The lady in black is no one to be messed with, but the combatants behind the wheel are going to try to tame Darlington. Welcome into this week's edition of Around the Track. I'm Gabe McDonald. Carla Metz will be along shortly. Whenever we head to Darlington, you can count on two things: a throwback feel and also some tight racing. With that said, we brought in a legend for this week's Garage Confidential. NASCAR Hall of Famer Ray Evernham is in the house. Plus, we'll check in with Xfinity Series rookie Christian Eckes as well. The man who knows all in NASCAR, our Garage Insider, and the man who brings a little bit of drip too, Jordan Bianchi, is going to be here as well. So let's drop the green flag. We are officially heading down to Darlington. It doesn't matter what nickname you choose to call this 1.3-mile egg-shaped oval. Darlington produces some very aggressive racing, which is a double-edged sword. The wall sticks out of different turns here, and drivers are going to hit the wall. So you either take the bump or you end your day. If you're riding too high or even too low, you can get forced to head to the pits at the track Too Tough to Tame. It's narrower, so think of it as a smaller, way more rigid Homestead Miami. Drivers tell us it's a mentally taxing track, and with so many factors to consider, only the strong survive.
That Darlington itself is like I know it's generic to say it because it's what people say, but I'm literally just racing the racetrack. Like it's I've done a bad job there at times if you get caught up if somebody's quicker and you start trying to drive harder. Like that place is you don't live very long there by trying to drive the racetrack harder. So I think it's more mentally just trying to get in the rhythm of just racing the racetrack, whatever speed I got, just working on me.
I just feel like the mental mush that your brain is in after leaving that race is just, pretty high because, your concentration level is at 110% the whole time.
Over-aggression's kind of overblown at Darlington, especially with this car. You can be pretty aggressive, and it's just, I don't know. I think you've got to be aggressive at Darlington now to get clean air and to stay up towards the front.
I guess, to preface, I haven't ever been to Darlington and not hit the wall, so that's, I guess, not one time is more memorable than the other, I guess.
Let's go ahead and get to those track trends for this week. When it comes to Darlington, it's all about those final 10 laps. We've seen a lead change in the final 10 in the last 3 races. 9 different winners here in the last 9 races. That includes both the spring and the playoff race as well. Eric Jones should be racing with a vengeance after being DQ'd for weight issues last week. He's a sleeper here for Legacy Motor Club, winning the Southern 500 back in 2022. He has 2 Darlington wins in his career here at the track Too Tough to Tame. The roller coaster that is Ryan Blaney, who we just heard from, he's going to be a fun watch this weekend. He's got the most stage points this year. However, the lady in black hasn't been too kind to him last year, finishing 36 and 37. Last week's winner, Denny Hamlin, he's held the lead at least once in the last 10 races at Darlington, including 4 wins at the track Too Tough to Tame. Not only is he the most well-dressed man in the garage, he knows everything going on. One of the track's insiders from The Athletic is Jordan Bianchi. Jordan, the style points, they're in, but kind of shocked we don't have a throwback uni here, just going a little bit more traditional.
Yeah, I thought I'd leave the leisure suit at home this weekend, so here we are. Just a little more classic.
Maybe we'll see something at the track when we get down there this week. But of course, Jordan, we've heard year after year from everybody how bad drivers want Darlington on their resume because it's a crown jewel, of course, there in the fall. Not many have a win either in the Cup or the Xfinity level. 12 total drivers between the 2 series, 7 drivers in the Cup level. What makes this place so special?
I mean, this is the oldest super speedway in NASCAR. They've been racing since 1950. It's a really hard track to get a handle of, and it's the epitome of a driver's track. You run well here, you win here. Like you said, this is a feather in your cap. This is a crown jewel race. To win here is to be excellent, and to beat everybody else on a track that is really demanding.
Yeah, of course, pit stop is going to play a big part as well. And tire wear seems to really be a continuous issue. We've seen that short tracks with a lot of different setups, Cup teams, they're going to have a different tire setup than those in the Xfinity Series. However, it's the same combination of left and right side tires. The Cup's tires ran twice at Darlington last season. This year they ran at Vegas on another 1.5 miles. What's the wear going to be like for these teams? Similar to maybe what we saw in Bristol last year? I mean, that was pretty crazy.
That's probably the best comparison. This is a cheese grater. It's like taking a cheese grater to the tires after even a few laps and they're already worn.
Yeah.
You're going to see a lot of pit stops. Any opportunity these guys have to make pit stops, they're going to take advantage of that. Tires are everything here. If you have fresh tires, you're fast. If you don't, you're in conservation mode.
To save me through, the pit stop strategy, because we've heard from a lot of drivers and even teams, it's a team effort to be able to win at this track because you're going to have more stops than normal when you come to a place like Darlington.
It is. Pit road is really, really tight. You have more pit stops, which means more opportunities to make mistakes. If you make a mistake on pit road, it's really hard to overcome that. You have to be perfect on the track and in the pits to have excellence here.
Absolutely. And talking about one manufacturer so far this year, Ford Performance, kind of back on the struggle bus early this season, like we saw last year, despite Joey Logano having the second most laps led this season, being passed by Denny Hamlin, obviously last week with his dominance at Martinsville. Now listen to this stat. Ford, only 5 top 5 finishes this year. Josh Berry has 2 of them, and he's the only Ford driver to get into victory lane. So what gives for Ford so far early in 2025?
Yeah, I mean, yes, they don't have the finishes. They don't have the wins and the top 5s and et cetera, but look at the laps led. Blaney's up there, Joey Logano's up there, Austin Cindric is up there. They're running really, really well. They have speed in their race cars. What they do not have is the finishes to go along with that. They just can't close out.
Yeah, definitely got to be able to finish there. Of course, at a tricycle like this too, and some of the other ones that we're going to over the next few weeks. Well, earlier this week, we knew they were coming, and NASCAR handed down the penalties from the Xfinity Series fiasco from Martinsville. Sammy Smith docked 50 points and fined $25,000. Smith, of course, at the center, as we all remember, the wreck that took out Taylor Gray in the final turn, in turn causing a number of crashes. Austin Hill able to sneak through there and win the race. And we also saw the 50-point deduction drops him from 6th to 13th in the standings. You also had Taylor Gray and Jeb Burton. They both hit for $5,000 penalties for their conduct at the Infield Care Center. Now, we saw over the weekend a lot of drivers and owners alike chiming in. Jordan, was this the right call? And what else are you hearing about the ordeal? And how do we fix this in the Xfinity?
Yeah, I mean, this was the right call. You had to do something to try to get your hands wrapped around this. And I will say this, I've been told that NASCAR is actually going to meet with the drivers this weekend in the Xfinity Series and just kind of lay down the law a little bit. If here's the expectations, we need you to do better. This is short track racing. I mean, this isn't like an anomaly at Martinsville. This happens a lot. The thing is, this series has evolved a little bit. There's not as many veterans around in the garage as there used to be. And you can see it in the racetrack because you got a lot of young, aggressive drivers who are willing to do whatever it takes to get the finish and don't really care about the consequences.
Of those young drivers, we've seen a lot make some strides early this year. Who's one guy that maybe you have your eye on that's really stood out to you so far?
I mean, there's a few, but Taylor Gray's one of them. I mean, he almost won a week ago at Martinsville. He's been fast. Again, another driver who doesn't necessarily have the finishes to go along with it, but has had the speed. And then, of course, Connor Zillage. Like, Connor Zillage is the man, and he's going to make his second career start coming up here in the Cup Series at Charlotte next month. He is somebody who is a future superstar in this sport.
Yeah, definitely somebody to look out for. And Jordan, he's an absolute legend, in our eyes at least, but we've got a certified Hall of Famer on deck. Take a listen.
Takes great pit stops, great strategy. If you win at Darlington, you win as a team.
We got a Hall of Famer in the house, and he knows how to defeat the Lady in Black. Who can forget what Ray Evernham did with Jeff Gordon at this track? We'll talk with the legend coming up next, right here on Around the Track. And NASCAR has a brand new legal battle brewing between 2 teams, one of which involves one of the greatest drivers we have ever seen. Jimmy Johnson and Legacy Motor Club are taking it to the courtroom, but they're taking with them. It's coming up next. And when I tell you Jordan Bianchi is at a NASCAR party is wild, people, that is an understatement. Jordan is going to get even more time to party when we go to All-Star Weekend because, get this, not 1, not 2, not 3, it's 4 days now. Find out about all the new events when Around the Track continues. Back here on Around the Track, All-Star Weekend in North Wilkesboro just got even bigger. The event will now be over 4 days, starting Thursday, May 15th, and wrapping up on Sunday night, the 18th. ZMAX Cars Tour races are now part of All-Star Weekend with a Pro Late Model race on Thursday and a Late Model Stock race on Friday, along with the Pit Crew Challenge as well. NASCAR legends and ZMAX Cars Tour co-owners Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Kevin Harvick will be in the booth for the Late Model Stock race. And on Sunday, the Wheel and Modified Tour will kick off the final day of racing with practice, qualifying, and a 150-lap feature race out of the All-Star Open and the $1 million All-Star race to end the night. Going to be a fun weekend for sure. Coming up next month. Gabe McDonald with our NASCAR insider from The Athletic, Jordan Bianchi. Jordan, we've got another big NASCAR lawsuit on our hands. Legacy Motor Club has filed a lawsuit against Rick Ware Racing over allegedly trying to back out of a signed agreement to sell one of its charters to the Jimmy Johnson-owned team. Jordan, what do you know? Broke the story earlier this week. A lot of big developments.
Here's what we know. Legacy was looking to buy a charter from Rick Ware Racing. They had seemed to have reached a deal on that, but then the terms were not to Rick Ware's liking. He backed out of the deal. Legacy says, no, we have a signed contract. We're paying you X amount of money. And by the way, I'm told that amount is $45 million for the charter agreement. And so now they're in court trying to figure this out. Legacy feels like it's entitled to that to fulfill the contract, and they own the charter. Rick Ware is saying no, the terms aren't to what we agreed upon, and now they're settling. They're going to be in court trying to figure this out.
And then just thinking about all the lawsuits we've seen so far in NASCAR.
Yeah, it's been a few.
Has it been as crazy of a season as you've seen so far?
There's more action, seems like, sometimes in the courtroom than on the racetrack, but that's just the way it is, and this is big stuff. This is part of the big overall lawsuit right now between NASCAR and 2311 and Front Row. This is kind of a fallout from that a little bit.
Certainly going to be some big developments, and of course, Jordan Bianchi going to have all the headlines for you. Well, from legacy to legendary, me, Ray Evernham has seen it all and he's done it all. And now he's talking about a new adventure with our own Carla Metz in this week's Garage Confidential.
That's right. He's a NASCAR Hall of Famer, a championship crew chief back in the day, and also a former team owner. We have Ray Evernham joining us right now. We're talking about the Heritage Invitational that's going to be happening April 4th and 5th just outside of Charlotte Motor Speedway. But I would say, just reading over everything, if you're a racing fan, if you love cars, if you love history and motorsports, this is really a place where you want to be.
Oh, it is. And, you know, this is the brainchild of Marcus Smith and Rick Hendrick, and they've partnered together to bring something to our area that just isn't done. You know, we're going to have vintage race cars, historic Trans Am racing cars on the new 10th Hence Motor Club, as well as a Pro-Am on Friday night, where we're going to have some fun with some great drivers coming in to raise money for charity, including my good buddy Jeff Gordon, Daniel Suarez, Scott Speed. We've got guys coming from the West Coast. We've got Daytona 500 winners, and we've got Daytona 24-hour winners. We move into Saturday. Mr. Hendrick is going to put on display his favorite group of supercars, which some of one in the world. So classic cars, hot rods, lots of fun, race cars on track, whatever you want.
Yeah, good timing for the NASCAR circuit too. They're going to be at Darlington Raceway for Throwback Weekend. What about Darlington is special? I know you probably have a ton of memories there from your time with HMS and with Jeff Gordon, but what makes Darlington so special?
I love Darlington. You know, they call it the Lady in Black because it is a racetrack that becomes part of the race. You've got to pay attention, lots of respect to the Lady in Black if you're going to finish that race, because it's a tough racetrack. It takes a lot of driver skill. It takes great pit stops, great strategy. If you win at Darlington, you win as a team, and it is one of my favorite places because of the difficulty factor. Jeff Gordon and I were fortunate enough to win there 5 times.
Yeah.
So I'm excited every time they race at Darlington.
And Hendrick Motorsports has been successful there in the past as well. And I know that, you know, you're not necessarily working with HMS right now, but I'm sure you keep up with all the drivers.
They're still family to me.
Yeah.
You know, Mr. Hendrick, one of my best friends, and Jeff Gordon's like a little brother to me. But the Hendrick family and the team Hendrick certainly always pull for them. But Rick Hendrick has a lot of wins at Darlington. And Darlington, the best teams win.
While we have you here, too, I know you were also a former Cup owner, too, and there's been kind of rumors, inklings that the NASCAR has put out there about Dodge potentially coming back for the Truck Series. You've dealt with Dodge in the past before. How do you see this kind of coming about, and does it excite you at all that there might be a 4th manufacturer coming in?
It really excites me to see that there are manufacturers interested in NASCAR. I think it's a great time to come in with the new car that they have and the programs that they're putting together. Still have a lot of friends at Dodge, and I'm hearing other manufacturers too, so it may not just be Dodge. I think the sport is very healthy, but it's exciting whenever another manufacturer comes in and increases the competition, you know, and you get that, you know, Ford against Chevy against Dodge against Toyota. It makes a lot of fun, especially in the grandstands.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned NASCAR being at a healthy spot right now. Is that kind of your assessment of NASCAR right now and just the growth that we've seen over the past couple of years?
Absolutely. I think if you look at the TV ratings, you look at the number of people that are in the stands, NASCAR's age demographic is coming down and down. The manufacturers are getting behind it because it still is a matter of what wins on Sunday sells on Monday, and no different. That's why I'm excited about this historic Trans Am deal, because back in the 1960s, that's what it was all about, and that kind of momentum, I think, is still carrying on in motorsports today.
Always going to have a legend in the sport join us right here on Around the Track. But we all know Kyle Larson's preparing for round 2 of the double, but his Indy 500 attempt actually starts this weekend in Darlington. We'll explain that coming up next. Plus, we got not 1, but 2 of the Xfinity Series finest. Big news for Jesse Love, and we'll go in the garage and talk with Christian Eckes when Around the Track continues. Back here on Around the Track, the preparation for Kyle Larson's second attempt at the double are officially underway, and that includes Kyle taking us into his training and showing off the new rides as well. Larson and Jeff Gordon are calling this attempt the Hendrick 1100, completing both the Indy 500 and Coat 600 in the same day. Hendrick is teaming with McLaren yet again. Both parties were happy with Kyle's 500 run last year, in which he won Rookie of the Race. He even led the pack before ultimately finishing 18th, and of course, the double never happened due to weather in both Indy and Charlotte. Crew members from Kyle's Indy McLaren team will actually be in Darlington this weekend to get a feel for what to expect. And Larson himself is ready to take on the challenge once again with hopes of running and hopefully completing both races.
You're always trying to make yourself a better race car driver, and to me, with that, you have to push yourself outside normal boundaries. And for me, learning a new style car last year was really fun. I feel like when I do that, I don't get just so zoned in on learning one style, and I feel like that allows me to broaden my abilities. And I've done that my whole career, so I think that's been one of my advantages, and we'll continue to do that.
Meanwhile, Richard Childress Racing is sending another Xfinity driver to the big show. Jesse Love will make his Cup Series debut next week at Bristol Motor Speedway. He'll pilot the number 33 at the last great Coliseum. RCR already announced earlier this month that Love's Xfinity teammate Austin Hill will also be doing some Cup races this season in the 33, the first actually being this weekend at Darlington. Love has been quickly rising throughout the NASCAR's ranks and is locked into this year's Xfinity playoff already with his win at Daytona in the season opener. And speaking of the Xfinity Series, many in and around the sport view this year's 8-driver rookie class as one of the more talented bunches in some time. And College Racing's Christian Eckes is one of them. Our Joey Ellis journeyed out to his team's shop this week for more on his season and how he plans to be the top rookie this year.
Well, Christian Eckes drives the number 16 now full-time for College Racing, now full-time for a season in the Xfinity Series. Just 7 races in. It's a very long season, obviously, but just how's it been so far, the assessment of kind of making the jump?
Yeah, no, there's definitely been a lot of negatives to start the year, but in the same aspect, I've been trying to do a better job of focusing on the positives. And the positives are, the last 2 weeks, both at Homestead and Martinsville, felt like we had top 5 race cars. So definitely been a little bit of a struggle, but at the same time, looking forward to the next, 26, I guess we got left. Still a lot left. So definitely taking a little bit more of a positive approach now.
I mean, you did 7 years in the trucks. What's been the biggest challenge of adjusting to the newer level of racing, if there has been one for you?
Yeah, I think it just the new race cars more than anything. The trucks have a lot of side force, a lot of down force, and the Xfinity cars don't have much of that. So makes it more fun to drive for sure. I've really enjoyed driving the Xfinity cars and racing around other cars. It's a lot better in traffic. Yeah, no, it's been fun for sure.
About that Martinsville finish as a whole, I mean, a lot of people wanted to talk about it. Just from your perspective, how do you kind of sum up the week there, the race there?
Like I said, just take the positive away from it. Martinsville's a rough track. I've been center of controversy there before in my Truck Series days, but it's a controversial track, and there's not much you can do about it. Obviously you'll remember the things that happened to you and everything for the races moving forward, but just taking the positives from my end. I know I've said that word a lot, but trying to be better about that for sure.
Looking ahead to Darlington too, just thoughts on the weekend there and kind of thoughts on the track.
Yeah, I like Darlington. I have a truck win there a couple years ago. We were able to test. It was my second Xfinity test earlier this year, so have a good notebook, I feel like, and feel on what that I want. Obviously, the weather was way different back in January, but in the same aspect, just kind of get those laps at that track, running the wall, doing some other things that's going to be important will definitely be crucial for this weekend.
You mentioned wins, obviously, in the Truck Series. Still looking for that. It's still in the first year of the Xfinity, but for you, long-term, or even just seasons end here, what does success look for you and look for the team?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like success for me has always been doing the best that I can.
Yeah.
There's going to be different situations and circumstances that could affect results, and maximizing both on the team side and my side will bring the results that we want. Obviously we want to win. We want to win everything if we could. It's us as race car drivers, but doing the best we can, I think, will provide that.
Christian Eckes, best of luck this weekend in Darlington and the rest of the season. We appreciate you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Well, Denny Hamlin won't say he beat your favorite driver anymore, but it looks like he's got a new catchphrase, 11 against the world. Will he find victory lane again? Our locks and the odds, those are coming up right here on Around the Track. Tune in because we got a big one on deck next week when we go to Bristol. The man running the double, Kyle Larson, will be in Garage Confidential ahead of next week's race at Bristol. It's an interview that you can't want to miss. It's on Around the Track next week. Be sure to check your local listings for when you can see ATT on your local Nexstar station across the country. Let's see some odds for this weekend in Darlington, shall we? And what might be no surprise to anyone is that Kyle Larson, we just talked about, is yet again the Vegas front runner going into the weekend. He's at 4.5 to 1, while Tyler Reddick is at 6.5 to 1 to get it done. Maybe there's something Vegas knows that we don't, because Ryan Blaney is at 7 to 1, but this track really hasn't been his best track as of late. Denny Hamlin also 7 to 1 as well, and William Byron rounds at the top 5 with 8 to 1 odds to get it done at Darlington. Well, the time has come. We've talked about the odds. Now it's time to give our picks. Jordan, who do you like to get the checkered flag this weekend at Darlington?
We talked a lot about Christopher Bell. We talked about a lot of Kyle Larson this year, but let's not forget William Byron won the Daytona 500. He's also the Daytona 500 champion. He is my pick to get his second win at Darlington this weekend.
Had that win in 2023. Why do you think he's able to get it done this weekend?
He's had a lot of speed this year. Hasn't had the consistency, though he's leading the point standings. I think he just kind of asserts himself and says, hey, guys, don't forget about me.
Yeah, never forget about that 24 car. I'm rolling with somebody who actually he had a little bit of a tiff with a couple years ago at Darlington. Give me Joe Logano to get it done this weekend and notch that first win of the season. A veteran driver, he knows what it takes to win here. Won that win in 2022. A little bit of controversial there at the end. Also has 5 additional top 5s at the Lady in Black. So we'll see, if we see a bump and run between these two again. But Joey Logano, William Byron, some solid picks for sure. Darlington always brings a lot of action. It is going to be a great race as well. Appreciate it tuning in to Around the Track this week. For Jordan Bianchi and Carla Metz, I'm Gabe McDonald. We'll see you again next week as we look ahead to the race at Bristol.